right, guys, for today, we're looking at employee benefits. Now, some people, when they're making a decision on a job, only look at your per hour pay, but that's not everything you need to look at. What else would you need to be concerned with? Mm-hmm. Big with 401k. Good, but like we have to think about insurance, especially if you have a family. Insurance is a really big issue. You got to think about like your retirement, your 401k. Is there a pension plan that they pay you after you retire? There's a lot of things to think about besides just how much do you make per hour. And somebody had said like vacation, how much time you get off. I mean, you could have 2 weeks off per year, or you could have 4 weeks off vacation, or maybe you get a couple days. Like it depends on the job. Okay. So a lot of words and stuff going on here in the beginning. So what are the benefits of a job? Okay, so employee benefits, value added options. Okay, value added options that an employer can choose to offer employees. Okay, those are your benefits. So different types are insurance. So we had mentioned that one. You have health insurance, life insurance, your disability insurance if you'd be hurt, paid vacation time or paid sick time. Some places refer to it as PTO. Do we know what PTO would stand for? Paid time off. PTO, paid time off. So whether you're sick or you just need a day off to go do something or whatever, so your paid time off or paid vacation time. Paid holiday time. So do you get paid for like Christmas when the company's not open? Do you have to work on Christmas? Mm-hmm. Yeah, my brother-in-law is the same way. He works at a factory. When they're closed on Christmas, if he wants to get paid, he has to use his PTO time to actually get paid for that. Yeah, so that's something to look at when you get a job. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's one thing to look at is, are they going to pay you when they're closed and you can't work? Do you still get paid or do you not? That's things to take into consideration. Retirement plan or pensions. So yeah, most jobs pull Social Security where you pay into Social Security all the time. That's one thing that I do not pay into, and I will not receive Social Security when I retire. Teachers do not pay into Social Security. We have our own retirement account. So something to take into consideration. Stock ownership. I have a friend who is pretty high up in a business, and he gets stock options. So he gets stock dividends every year. It's like bonus checks. So you get stock in the company. And then child care leave. Okay, if you're going to have kids. As a teacher, I get 6 weeks off, but I have to use my sick time to get paid for those 6 weeks I take off after having a kid. So some things to take into consideration. Benefits are usually offered to full-time employees. So you got to think, are you going to be part-time or are you going to be full-time? Whether or not you get the benefits. The benefits provided vary based on the job and the employer. So not every job's the same. Okay, things are very different. Like as a teacher, like I get paid when I'm not here, like paid in the summer. I don't technically get paid in the summer. They pay me for like the job I do during the school year, but they just split it up for me and I get paid all year long. They just divide it by, I get paid twice a month. So what am I getting paid by? Semi-monthly. I get paid twice a month. So they just take the salary that I earn for the 9 months that I'm teaching, and they divide that. How many payments semi-monthly in a year? 24. So they take my pay and divide it by 24. So I get a paycheck in the summer, but it's based off of money I've earned when I'm teaching. If that makes sense. Okay, good. Okay, so there's a lot of vocab that goes along with different health insurance. And health insurance is a really hot button issue. Like I know Mrs. Little, that's down in the Sallyport, the secretary down there. Do you guys know what the Sallyport is? Yeah, that little glassed-in area when you first walk in the school right off to the side. If you come in late, you have to walk in there and get buzzed in. That's my sister-in-law down there. And she worked at a bank for 20, I think it was almost 20 years. She worked at a bank. She was like a loan officer. She did like all kinds. She was a boss. She had employees underneath her. She came here to be a secretary. She makes more money per hour here than she did at the bank with all that responsibility. insurance is better here than where she was. So like you got to really look at things. Yes, she'd been there for a really long time. She had a great job as far as she liked what she did. She had employees under her. She didn't make hardly anything. So she took a different job to make more and have better insurance. All right, so here we go. Family health care covers all members of the immediate family. And there are definitely different rates if you have family health care versus if it's just you. You pay a different amount per month for your insurance. Individual health care covers only the employee. So if you're single, individual health care is great because it's just you. But as soon as you get married, you need to think about what's the better option. Do you go underneath a family plan so it covers you and your spouse? Or do you and your spouse each take your own individual insurance for where you work? Things to consider. My husband is also a teacher, but his insurance through the school he's at is better than the insurance here. So I do not take Penna's insurance. I'm on his, and we have a family plan through him. Yep. So does your mom have an individual then? Because she just takes care of her? Yep. That makes sense. All right. Do you guys know the word for the cost you pay each month for insurance? What? Bills? That is your premium. That's your premium. So that's one of the things when you get a job, you got to ask, like, what are my premiums? What am I paying every month for my insurance? Like when I taught in Findlay, well, in the early years of me teaching there, insurance was a lot better than it was when I left. But like I would pay, I don't know, like $20 a month was all I paid for insurance. It was just me. It was before I got married, before I had kids. I paid like $20 a month. Whereas, refer back to my sister-in-law at the bank, she was paying over $500 a month for her insurance. Yeah, it can vary like greatly like that. All right, and then deductible. I think someone threw that word out there. Deductible is the amount paid before your plan will cover care beyond essential benefits. Once this preset amount is reached, the plan will pay 100% of your charges. So that is another thing that you want to question when you get a job is on your insurance. The insurance I'm on with my husband, we have a 0 deductible. We don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Yeah, his insurance is incredible. We pay more per month, but I don't ever pay anything else. So like something happened to me, I need to have a surgery or whatever, I wouldn't pay a penny, nothing. The insurance covers all of it. Most people, that does not happen anymore. So I just keep waiting for the shoe to drop, right, for that insurance to go away. But right now it's still, we don't pay anything out of pocket other than our monthly premiums. But like most deductibles, I think the one here at Penna, their insurance, I think for a family is like $4,800. So you'd have to pay $4,800 worth of all your bills before your insurance kicks in to pay after that. Every year it starts over. So if you got to like $4,700 that you paid one year and then it clicked over to the next calendar year, you start back at 0. Yeah, it does suck. So that's something to think about when you're getting a job is what are my deductibles? What do I have to pay out of pocket first before then my insurance will kick in? It's just the way different plans work. I know it sucks. Yeah. You pay, those are called copays. I do pay a copay if I go to the doctor. Like I pay $20 for mine, but I don't pay anything else. 15, that's not bad. Your parents do. So right here, copay, that's the next word on here. All right, that says copay. It doesn't want to show up. It's like, oh, there it goes. Now it's going to show up suddenly. That was weird. All right, copay. That's the flat fee you pay when your care is provided. It's like you go to the doctor, your parents pay $10, $15, $20, whatever it is. That does count towards your deductible. So if your deductible is like $5,000 you have to pay, every time you go and pay that copay, like for like a well visit and things like that or whatever, that does go towards that $5,000. And then the last word. Really? So what do you guys think? What is a percent of the charge of care that you pay? Counts towards your deductible. Do you know the percent? That is called the co-insurance. Board just wants to mess with me today. Co-insurance. It is. All right, so a co-insurance, a percent of the charge that you have to pay. Some plans are like 80-20, meaning that your insurance will pay for 80% of it, but you have to pay the other 20% up until you hit that deductible. So maybe they're not making you hit that right out of the bat. Sometimes they kind of switch it up that way. So there's a lot of different options for insurance. It really does pay to ask questions before you take a job to know what kind of insurance you're going to have. All right, types of health insurance plans. So I can speak very well about some of these and not so great about others of these. The first one is a health maintenance organization, or an HMO. I don't know if you guys have ever heard your parents talk about what kind of insurance they have. HMOs are health services delivered through a network of providers or facilities. You pay your premiums, so you pay your monthly to have your insurance. You have to pay a deductible, so every time you go to the doctor, you pay $10, $15, $20, whatever. You have to pay your co-pays, and you have to pay in co-insurance. So I have some pros and some cons on there for you. So a plus, preventative care is usually free. So if you have like well visits, you know, like you go, like I take my kids every year for their well visit. You don't have to pay anything for that. Another positive, the least amount of paperwork compared to other plans. So that's always good. Some negatives, least freedom in choosing your healthcare providers. If you have an HMO, it's like they have a list of doctors and you can choose from here. That's it. If your doctor that you normally see is not on that list, you cannot go to that doctor. Your insurance will not cover it. So you'd have to look at the list of doctors that are provided and kind of figure out which one you can go to. Often need a referral from your primary care doctor to see a specialist. Say something's going on, you need to go see like a neurologist to figure out what's going on with you. You can't just call a neurologist and make an appointment. You'd have to go to your regular doctor, then they would have to refer you to a neurologist before you could go, before your insurance would cover it. And you can only see doctors in your network. Otherwise, you pay the full bill. So again, that list of doctors, if you would choose someone not on that list, they're not paying for it. You got to pay it all out of pocket on your own. Yeah, I know my parents were on one of these for a lot of years. All right, the next one is a preferred provider organization, a PPO. This is actually the one that my husband's insurance is through. He has a PPO. Health services delivered through a network of providers and facilities. You pay premiums, deductible co-pays, or co-insurance. So same idea there. This one has a much larger list of doctors to see than the other. The HMO has a very narrow list. This is a lot bigger. So again, preventative care is free. Moderate freedom in choosing your health care. I know with his, they used to be a different type of insurance and they switched to this. And when they made the change, they legitimately told us, if you go to a doctor that's not on the list, let us know. We'll make sure they get added to that list. So there's a lot more freedom that they can choose which doctors they want. No referral is needed to see a specialist. I was having all kinds of back and hip and whatever issues. I needed to see a neurologist. I went ahead and I called a neurologist on my own, made an appointment. I did not need my doctor to refer me, which was nice. The only con, more paperwork compared to other plans if you see out-of-network providers. Provider means doctors. I don't ever go to anybody out-of-network, so I can't actually speak to that one. And another con, higher out-of-pocket costs to see doctors out-of-network versus in-network. But again, this has a lot bigger list of doctors you can see, so the odds of going out-of-network, you don't usually go out-of-network as much. There we go. Next type is a high deductible health plan. This is the type of insurance like Penta offers its employees. Okay, and when my last year's at Finley was a plan just like this. High deductible health plan, or an HDHP. See that abbreviated? You will pay higher out-of-pocket cost, but you'll have lower premiums. So you'll pay less per month for your insurance. Instead of $500 a month for your insurance, you might only pay like $25, $50 a month for your insurance, which is great. You're paying less out of pocket to have the insurance, but then a higher deductible means you're going to have to reach like $5,000 for your insurance kicks in. or whatever it may be. The doctors you will be able to see will be based on the type of plan you have, HMO, PPO, or whatever. So you can have a PPO, but also have it be a high deductible plan. So it just depends. So like we pay, like we're a PPO, but not this one, the insurance that I have through my husband. We have higher premiums every month. Like we pay, it's like 300 and something a month is what we pay. So we pay more per month, but like I don't pay, my deductible is nothing. So I don't ever pay for anything else. So you kind of, like through my husband's work, he had like options of insurance we could choose, and we had to kind of weigh that option. Do you want to pay less per month? But if something happens, we have 3 kids. If something happens to the kids, I'm going to be paying out of pocket till I hit like $5,000. To me, that wasn't worth it. I'll pay the $300 a month and know that I'm covered forever. I'm good. Okay. Preventative care, usually free again. Lower premiums, you don't pay as much per month. Often paired with a health savings account, or an HSA. Have you guys ever heard that reference before, HSA? Money put into this account is not taxed, and it can be used tax-free on eligible medical expenses. And some employers actually contribute. I know when I taught in Findlay, when they made the switch to stuff like this, we all had a health savings account, an HSA, and they would match what we put in. So if I put in like $1,000 that year into that account, again, I don't get taxed on that money, then my employer also put in that much. So it's like I got $2,000. So, and that's money that you can use to pay those medical bills up to your deductibles to make sure you can pay for that. Pros and cons, you're in control of more. That could be a pro or a con. How much do you want to keep track of? So you have the freedom to shop around, but you got more to think about. Okay, you got to do more research to figure out where's your best option to go. A negative deductible is at least $1,300 for an individual and $2,600 for a family, but not more than $6,550. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have an extra $6,500 laying around to pay for medical bills for the year. So you got to think about that. But that's for individual. $13,100 for a family. It could be up to that high. That's insane. And may or may not have co-pays or co-insurance. So you may have to pay like 20 bucks when you go to the doctor. You may not. It just depends on what your plan looks like. How much did you know about insurance before today? Did you know anything about different plans and how things work? Some of you are like, nope, no clue. I'll be honest with you guys, like before I became on my own with a big girl job and all that good stuff, I knew nothing about insurance. I remember the first time sitting in a meeting and they're talking about insurance and I'm like, what? What's a premium? What does that mean? I had no idea. I was clueless. So you guys now officially know more than I ever did at your age. Yeah. Yep, that's not all you pay. They send you a bill afterwards. Whatever your insurance doesn't cover, they send you the bill for that. I know, I'm sorry. It does suck. All right, some required benefits. First one is unemployment insurance. It's a government program that offers benefits to eligible employees who, through no fault of their own, have become unemployed. Okay, these workers will receive temporary assistance and must be looking for employment. So notice it says through no fault of their own. If you quit your job, is that your fault? Yeah, if you decide to quit, you do not qualify for this. Okay, the worker will receive a percentage of what they earned at their job over a qualifying period of employment. So you've heard of people that they lost their jobs and they're on unemployment for a while. This is what it's referring to. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, if you're laid off, like I know like construction workers or whatever, if they don't work in the winter and they get laid off, they collect unemployment. Yep. But yeah, if you quit, that's kind of a rule of thumb. If you hate your job and you don't want to be there anymore, don't quit. Let them fire you. If they fire you, you get unemployment. If you quit, you do not. So keep that in mind as you get older, and if you're in a job that you want out of, let them fire you. Do not quit. And then workers' compensation. This program offers assistance to employees who are injured while at their job. So you're at work, something falls on you, you hit your head, whatever, you get workers' comp. That's how you usually hear that called workers' comp. That means you get paid since you got hurt on the job. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, my dad's on disability because of his knees. So, yep, because they were high in that car crash. All right, so here we go. Let's actually do a little math, shall we? We've been talking, but let's actually do math. I know, I know. Here we go, guys. Number one. Alan has worked for a printing company for a little over 4 years. He now makes $54,080 per year. When he was hired, he was told that he had 5 days of paid vacation time. So right off the bat, he gets 5 days. When you think about 5 days, how long is that in a work time? That's considered a week. So if you're talking about a week in employment, they're talking 5 days. They're thinking Monday through Friday. So like when I was on maternity leave and I had to use sick time for my 6 weeks that I was off, how many days of sick time did I have to use? 6 weeks. That's 30 days because there's 5 days in a work week. Okay, so don't be thinking in terms of 7 because most people typically don't work 7 days a week. A lot of people do. But when they talk about a work week, it's 5 days, not 7. All right, so for each year that he worked at the company, he would gain another 2 days of paid vacation time to a maximum of 20. So once he hit 20, he was like capped out. You couldn't earn more than that. So if he has 20 days, how many weeks does he have off? That's 4 weeks, right? 20 divided by 5 is 4. So how many paid vacation days does he now get at the end of 4 years of employment? And how much money will he earn while he's on vacation? So let's do the first part. How many paid vacation days will he now have after 4 years? So how many did he get right off the bat? They gave him 5 right off the bat. Okay, so he has 5 days plus how many days does he earn? He earns 2 days after how many times? So it says for each year that he works. So every year he gets 2 more days. How many years has he worked? 4. So 4 years, he gets 2 days. So how many days does he actually have now? He has 13 days. So 13 days of vacation. All right. So he gets what? 2 weeks and 3 days? If you're thinking about work weeks. All right. So then the other part was how much money will he earn while he's on vacation? Now this is a tricky question because right now we know how much he makes per year, right? So I need to figure out how much does he make per day? Because right now this is in days. I know he has 13 days. Amanda? All right, I agree that I should divide it, but not 365. 365 is how many days are in a year, Tyler? Um, you could go weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he's on the right track. You can go 2 different routes with this problem, okay? One route is you could switch it to weeks. So how long is 13 days? Good. That would be 2 weeks and 3 days. So 3 days is how much of a week? It'd be 3/5. You could switch that to 2 weeks, 2 and 3/5, which I think might confuse some people, but that's one option you could go. And then you could divide this by 52, and then you would figure out how much he makes per week if you do it that way. The other option is I'm already in days. So instead of, it's not 365, because we're not including weekends. How many weeks are in a year? 52. And how many days are we talking in a work week? 5. So how many days are we talking? 260. So that's how many days, work days, are in a year. Not because I'm not including Saturdays and Sundays. So I could take how much he's making per year and divide it by 260 days to figure out how much he makes per day. I can do it that way. So how much does he make per day? $208 a day. So the question asks, how much money will he earn while he's on vacation? Well, if he has 13 days of vacation, and I know he makes $208 a day, we'll just have to take 208 and multiply that by 13. So 2,704. Now, go back to the method that Tyler was talking about weeks. You could do that. If I switch this to weeks, 13 days would be 2 weeks and 3 out of the 5 days left over, right? Because 1 week is 5 days. Another week would give you 10 days, and then he's got 3 more days into that 5-day work week. So then you could have taken this number, the 54,080. You could have divided it by 52 to figure out how much he makes per week, which is not the route I went, so let me figure that part out. So 5480 divided by 52. So in this case, he'd make 1,040 per week. And if he gets 2 3/5 weeks, you just multiply 2 3/5 times 1,040. It's another option. You could have went either way, switching it all to days or switching it all to weeks. But you got to make sure those units match, okay? Don't do one in weeks and one in days, because they're not going to match. How are we feeling? That's a tricky one. Even the first time I went to work through this problem, like, oh yeah, I'll switch to days. And I divided by 365. I'm like, whoa, that's not right. Don't take into consideration Saturdays and Sundays. All right, number 2. Frida's employer offers her family health care as an employee benefit. Frida must contribute 12% of the cost, and her employer will cover the rest. Frida gets paid on a bi-weekly basis, and she notices that $88.50 is taken out of each paycheck for her portion of the family health care coverage. How much does Frida's employer contribute for her coverage? There's a lot going on in that problem. Okay, so what do we need to figure out first? Not right off the bat. Maybe later, but not right off the bat. Yeah. Okay, so we can figure out the percentage. If she's paying 12%, they're paying 88%, which is nice, right? She's only paying 12, they're paying 88. Nice trade-off. Now, the 12%, is that per year, or when is that? She's getting paid biweekly. But when it's saying that her insurance is paying 12%, or she pays 12%, that's for the year. So we need to figure this out based on a year. So if she gets paid biweekly, and this much is $88.50 is coming out of each biweekly check, how much is coming out per year? What would you have to multiply that by? 26. So $88.50 times 26, because it's biweekly. So that's per year for her, $2,301 per year, and that's Frida. right? I got to make sure I know what I'm finding here. So that's how much per year Frida is paying. Now the question was asking how much is her employer contributing. Well, we know that she's paying 12% of the whole thing, right? So if she's paying 12% of the entire cost, which is what I don't know, I know 12% is 2301, right? That's where this X is the total cost of insurance. So this type of setup, this equation, you will use a lot today. Okay, anytime you're seeing that we're talking about percentages and whatnot, you got to know this is coming up somewhere in there. So 12% of the total is 2301, what she's paying. So how do I solve for X to find out the total cost of her insurance? We just divide. What's 2301 divided by 0.12? Say that again. Good. $19,175. What did I just find? That is the total cost of insurance. Did I answer the question? No. The total cost of the insurance is $19,175 a year. The question asks, how much does her employer contribute? Well, don't we already know how much Frida pays of it? So what could I do? I can just subtract them, yeah. So I already know that she's paying $2,300, right? So I can just subtract the $2,301 that I know that Frida pays to find out her company is going to pay the rest of it. So her employer then is going to pay $16,874. So that's what her employer is paying. So is that a nice benefit of your job, that you're only paying $2,300 and they're paying over $16,000? Something to take into consideration when you get a job. Like, yeah, I make like $25 an hour, but you also pay $20,000 a year in insurance. Kind of offsets how much you make per hour. So that's one of those things you need to take into consideration when you're looking at jobs. How are we feeling on that? Hopefully, if you're a little not confident, make sure you're referring back to these types of problems when you're working through homework, okay? Oh, yep, sorry. When you get older, you will. You're welcome. Okay, number 3. At Richardson Manufacturing Company, there are 2 factors that determine the cost of health care. If an employee makes less than $55,000 per year, all right, so we have kind of our first standard here. If you make less than $55,000, you pay $60 per month for individual and $115 per month for family. If an employee makes at least $55,000, in other words, $55,000 or more, then individual is $90 per month and family is $165 per month. Okay, so it kind of falls on how much you make per year, depends on how much insurance you pay. All right, so part A, Ariel is an office assistant at Richardson. She makes $47,700 per year. So does she fall in the less than or at least 55? She's less than, okay? She has individual health care. How much does she pay per month? 60 then, because she's individual. Her yearly contribution is 5% of the total cost of the health care policy. So how much does her employer contribute? So again, this is similar to the last problem that we did. Very similar. Okay, so we know that she's paying $60 per month because she falls in that category and she's individual. All right, so let's write this down. So she pays $60 per month. So what's the first thing we should figure out? How much she pays per Year. We always got to talk in terms of years. So how do I figure out how much she pays per year? Times it by 12. Because this is 60 per month, there's 12 months in the year. So how much does she pay per year? $720 a year. It's a lot better than the last person's insurance we looked at, right? They were paying over $2,300 a month or a year. Okay. So it's kind of in that same idea as that last problem. If she's paying 5% and that's what she pays, what's the formula look like that we set up? It's a 0.05 because she pays 5% of X, the total, right? That's your total cost. It's the part we don't know. So 5% of the total cost should equal $720. 5% of the total cost for insurance is $720 because that's what she pays, and she pays 5% of it. So if we divide, what is her insurance cost for the whole year? How much is good? $14,400. Now that's the total cost for her insurance. That's not how much she pays. She only pays $720. And then we subtract them to figure out her employer's cost. Right? So we'll subtract off the $720 what she pays. So her employer is very nice. Her employer pays $13,680. But do we see how that is set up just like that last problem, right? Same idea, figuring out how much they make per year, or how much they pay per year, and then set up your equation. What percent do they pay of the total? And then we can find out what the total cost is, and then subtract it off to find the employer. Okay, so if we look at part B, so the top part, do I need to go back? Oh, okay. The top part's the same, but part B is different. So Catherine is a department manager at Richardson. So she's at the same company. Her annual salary is $68,300. So which category does she fall in? She falls in she makes at least $55,000, right? She's over that. She has family health care. So what does she pay per month? $165 per month. Her employer contributes $935 per month toward her total coverage cost. What percent does Catherine contribute towards the total coverage? So this one's slightly different. Before, I knew the percent, and I had to figure out how much the employer paid. This time, I know how much she pays. I know how much the employer pays. I got to figure out what the percentage is. All right, so what's the first thing I probably want to do with all of my numbers? Probably multiply them both by 12. Let's figure out what's going on per year. So let's do that first. So she is paying $165 a month, so we have to multiply by 12. 165 times 12. So she pays $1,980 per year. So that's Catherine. Then her employer, they're paying, it says $935 per month. So $935 times 12. So her employer is paying $11,220 per year. So the question asked you, what percent does Catherine contribute? How do you figure out a percentage? Think about a test. If I give you your test back and it says that you got a 73 out of 80, how would you figure out what percent you got? You would divide them. Does that not make sense to do that here? She's paying, whoa. So think about when you're doing those percentages, it's the part over the whole. That's how you set up percentages. part over whole, right? You got 73 out of a total of 80 possible, right? So what part did she pay? 1980. What's the whole? You got to add them, right? Because this is what she pays, that's what her employer pays, but the total cost, the whole cost altogether, we have to add those. So the 1980 plus 11,220. So in your notes, guys, this part over whole, you may want to highlight, star that, whatever, so you don't lose track of that. Because a lot of people will want to just do the 1980 divided by 11,220, which is not correct. Right? It's always part over whole. So the 1980 divided by 13,200. That gives me 0.15. So what does that mean? What's 0.1? That's 15%. So part A said that they only paid 5% of their insurance costs. Catherine, she makes more, so she has to pay 15% of her total. Okay. How are we feeling, guys? We all right? All right, here we go. Number 4. Marina is the director of the Washington Performing Arts Center. Her employer offers a pension. Marina's employer uses a formula to calculate the pension. Marina is planning on retiring at the end of this year after 25 years of employment. Typically, how long do people work? What's like the average? Anywhere from 30 to 35 typically. So 25 years, that seems a little early, but depending on what her job is. All right. So let's see. A retiring employee receives 1.5% of his or her average salary for the last 5 years of employment, multiplied by the number of years worked. So this is actually very similar to like how, as a teacher, how our retirement is based. It's like the average of the top 5 years, the last 5 years that we worked, which is typically the most you've made, right, the last 5 years of your job. They average out that number, and then they take a percentage of that, and that's how much you get. Okay, so let's see. Marina would receive this amount each year until her death. So her salaries for the last 5 years, her salaries are listed. Calculate her pension. So it says in here that it's 1.5% of their average salary for the last 5 years. So what do I have to find first? I have to average them. Do you guys remember how to find an average? Good. So I'm going to add them all up, and I'm going to divide by 5, because there's 5 of them there. So we will add up 88,900 plus 92,200 plus 96,000 plus 98,000 plus 102,000. She made good money at the end. We're going to divide all of that by 5. All right, so what do you guys get for an average? Okay, I heard 95,000 what? $420? Okay, that's what I got you. Making sure we're all on the same page. So that's her average. If you added them all up, you would have had 477,100 and then divide by 5. So add them all up, divide by 5. That is her average. Okay, so it says she receives 1.5% of her average. So I have to multiply this. What's 1.5% written as a decimal? 0.015. I agree. Remember to switch a percentage to a decimal, divide by 100, if you're not sure where that should go. If I wrote 0.15, what would that be? That'd be 15%, so just be careful. Okay? So that means she makes $1431.30. But then what else does it say? 1.5% of the average salary for the last 5 years multiplied by the number of years she worked. So I have to multiply this by 25. Which is $35,782.50. So that is how much money that her company will pay her every year as part of her pension. Does that mean that she has to go from living off of $102,000 a year to only $35,000 a year? Will she get other money, you think? Where will she probably also pull money from? Social Security? Yeah, probably. She could have had a 401k retirement plan set up of her own. Yeah, she could have had money in stocks. We'll do a whole chapter on stocks. So that is money, though, that she's getting as a pension just from her company, her employer. Okay? Yeah. You just lose out on everything. You lose all your money that's invested. Yeah, so you got to be very careful. And that's actually kind of what happened to the teacher retirement system a few years ago, when kind of the stock market got everything kind of like the economy fell apart. STRS, that's State Teacher Retirement System, had invested in some stocks that didn't do well, and like teacher retirements, like they lost a crap ton of money. So then suddenly that happened, like, oh, instead of teaching 30 years and you're done, they're going to make you teach 35 years and you have to be at least this age. And with the way it sits now, I will have taught almost 45 years before I'll be able to retire. Yeah, I'm going to be that bitter teacher who should not be in the classroom anymore. You have me now on year 15 and not year like 45. Probably. I'm not going to want to grade anything. I'll be that terrible teacher. That'll be time for me to get out of the classroom. All right, here we go, guys. Number 5. In Reese's state, the weekly unemployment compensation is 60% of the 26-week average for the 2 highest salaried quarters. The first time I read this problem, I'm like, what the heck is it talking about? Okay, so we need to just kind of, in this first sentence, we need to recognize it's 60%, and we're talking about 26 weeks. 26 weeks is how much of a year? That's half a year, right? That's half a year. For the 2 highest salaried quarters, the average of those 2 quarters, right? It says a quarter is 3 consecutive months. So they told me in July, August, and September, he earned a total of $9,024. In October, November, and December, so there's another quarter, he earned a total of $9,800. So if you're talking about 2 quarters, how many months is that? That's 6 months. How much of a year is that? It's half a year. Okay, so the fact that it said 26 weeks, is that the same as the 6 months we're talking? It's the same thing, okay? So determine Reese's unemployment compensation. Well, it gave me, again, that word average. So I have to find the average of his pay here, right? So I'm going to have to do 9,024 plus 9,800. What am I dividing by? It's not 2. What'd you say? It's not 6 because we're not talking about months. It's 26. The reason it's 26 is because of what it says up here. It's 60% of the 26-week average. So it wants to know the average per week. So it's taking those 2, and typically we're going to divide by 2, but it's not per quarter. Okay. We're talking about 6 months worth, which is only 26 weeks. Yeah, so again, make a note of this problem because this shows up again on homework tonight where it talks about that 26-week average. So make sure you're dividing them by 26. All right, so what's the average per week then? $724. And that's his average per week. Since we divided by 26, we talked about 6 months. That's the months they gave us. 6 months is 26 weeks. It's half a year. So that makes sense. So the question, though, asked, what's his unemployment compensation? How much does he get per week? What percentage does he get? He gets 60%. So we have to take 724 and multiply that by 60%. Okay, so $434.40, and that's per week that he gets. So again, we're talking about unemployment compensation. So in other words, he was maybe laid off from his job or whatever it was, so he has to collect unemployment because he's not working currently. Do you ever make as much in unemployment as you did when you were working? No. And I don't know what the actual percentage is, like for the state of Ohio or if it's by county. I honestly don't know if how that varies. But for this one, he only makes 60% of what he was making. So that's something to take into consideration. If you're going to be like laid off from a job and collect unemployment, you're not going to make as much as you did when you were working. All right, almost done, guys. Number 6. Wanda lives in the same state as Reese. So we're back to that 60% of the 26-week average. All right, her weekly unemployment compensation is $360. What were the total 26-week earnings for her highest 2 consecutive quarters of employment? So it's just like Reese's part, but we kind of know different info than we did before. So, yep, so it's going to be 60%. So what do we know? What is the 360 that she's got here? What is that? And that is 60%, right? So kind of like we did the algebra on the other problem. Oops. So 60% of her weekly average is $360. So again, that setting up that algebra keeps coming back again and again, where X is the total, right? So it's that same thing. So we're going to solve for that. So how much was her per week? That'd be 600 per week. But the question asks, what were the total 26-week? Times that by 26. So 15,600. That was for the whole 26 weeks. That was that average. But you see how this problem's similar to the last one. We just have different info depending on what's given to us. Yep, you just got to be careful what's given. Yeah, that's why we go through them. So definitely, guys, when you're working on homework tonight, refer back to these questions, okay? Because I know sometimes the wording's a little tricky. All right, last one. Lara? I don't know, whatever you want to call her. Lara? We'll call her Lara. Also lives in the same state. She made the same weekly salary for each of the 26 weeks. So she makes a common salary. We don't have to average them for her. She will receive a weekly unemployment compensation check for $570. So every week they're going to pay her $570. What was her weekly salary when she worked for the company? So the last question wanted to know for the entire 26 weeks. This just wants to know, well, what was her weekly salary? So how do we set this up? Okay, so 60% X is equal to 570. Yeah, so she's getting $570 for compensation. That's going to be 60% of what she was making. So what was she making per week? 950 per week. Do I have to multiply this by 26 or do anything else with it? No, this one just wanted to know her weekly. So she was making $950 a week before she went on unemployment. Okay, so just be very careful, guys, on what info is given to you versus what you're supposed to find.